Hey, what's going on? All right, so I have I've decided to no longer uh, to try to get people to talk and dialogue with me because um, for one, it's very hard. A lot of people will just pretty much turn me down, or they'll say they'll show up and not show up. There was one person who did like try to we tried to connect, but obviously you guys saw that was a flop. And last but not least, there are people who, such as Micah Bussard, who just they don't at all have any kind of way or standard to really explain what they are trying to say that they understand about the Bible, or to prove what it is that they believe. Um, so because of that, I'm pretty much done. I'm only really going to talk to serious, sober-minded people who really want to get into the Word. So, with that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and walk through. I'm going to try and walk through a chapter with you guys every day. And until then, I'm going to go ahead and see if there's some people who are watching. I'll try to give people a little bit of a chance to be here. Um, but today we're going to be going over Revelation 13. And the reason why we're going to be going over Revelation 13 is because there have been people who really don't know what to do with that chapter because of one verse. And I do believe it is verse number 10. So just give me a second real quick, and I'm just going to see where I'm at. Okay, yeah, there I am. Okay, good. All right. So, um, just give me a second. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. How many of you guys have ran into Black Hebrew Israelites, and what they try to do is they try to say, let's see, they try to, oh, hmm, oh hey, um, they try to pretty much tell you in Revelation chapter 13, verse 10, that it is a chapter that they use to try to say that, the people that, have taken us captive, one day we're going to, be their captors. So they go to Revelation 13, verse 10, right? And they say to you, look, this is a prophecy that's going to happen to people who have, taken us captive, right? They try to point to this and say, well, look, in Luke 21, Matthew, so real, whatever. They try to say, look, in Luke 21, you have Jesus telling, non-messianic Israel that, hey, you know what? You guys are going to be led captive into all nations. And you know what? You're going to, in Jerusalem, here in Jerusalem, it's going to be trodden down by the Gentiles underfoot until their times have been fulfilled. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen to you guys, and that's what's going to happen to Jerusalem. And what they do is they take that into um, Revelation chapter 13:10, and I'm going to read it to you. And it simply says this. Hold on, let me take the vibrate off real quick. All right, I had to take the vibration off. So let's read Revelation 13:10 and see what it says. It says this: if anyone has an ear, let him hear. If anyone is to be taken captive, to captivity he goes. If anyone is to be slain with the sword, with the sword must he be slain. Here is a call for the endurance or patience and faith of the saints, right? Okay, that is what they use to go ahead and take Matthew or Luke 21 into Revelation 13:10. But Is this the picture that Revelation 13:10 even paints? Of the people who have been led captive into all nations, as Luke 21 states, is that the same people here that Revelation 13 is talking about, that John is talking about? Are they the same people? Is that even what Revelation 13 is talking about in general? Let's find out. So what we're going to do, we're going to read the entire chapter. We're going to find out what is the context of Revelation 13:10. Okay? All right. Let's start with verse 1. This is what it says. It says, the first beast. And I saw a beast rising out of the sea. Rising out of the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads. Wow. With 10 diadems, right? And diadems. Let's see what diadems means. Diadems is a jewel crown or headband worn as a symbol of sovereignty. Okay. On its horns and blasphemous names on its heads. Wow. And the beast that I saw was like a leopard. Its feet were like a bear's, and its mouth was like a lion's mouth. Okay. And once again, when we speak about mouths, remember, I'm not sure if you guys were looking at one of my earlier videos on YouTube, but remember how we were talking about when it comes to someone's mouth, a lot of times, and that's a Jewish idiom for authority, right? Hey, blessings, Shekinah, how you doing? Hey, what's up, Stephen Tilly? I see you. All right. Once again, we won't live by bread alone, but every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God, right? There's a mouth. Or Matthew 5, verse 2, when Jesus opened his mouth and he spoke, right? There's a reason why Jews write like that. Look at Acts 15, when I believe it was Peter who said, hey, remember that God ordained me that by my mouth the Gentiles should hear the gospel and things. And when Peter was done speaking, everyone fell silent. It's an interesting way to respond to someone who talks about the words that come out of their mouth. It's a Jewish kind of thing. So we're talking about authority, right? So let's get back here. It says, its feet were like a bear's, and its mouth was like a lion's mouth. Once again, that's an authoritative figure. I mean, remember, Satan goes around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. He could have chose a tiger or a bear. Oh my. But he chose a lion. Just like when Jesus ended up choosing, Jesus is described as the lion of the tribe of Judah, right? Once again, authority. I hope that's making sense. Let's continue. And to it, the dragon gave his power. Oh, so the dragon gave the beast that came out of the sea his power. Okay. And his throne. Wow. Gave him a throne too. Okay. And great authority. So he gave this. So the dragon gave the beast his power, his throne, and great authority. Okay. And to it, the dragon gave his power, throne, and authority. One of its heads seemed to have a mortal wound, but its mortal wound was healed, and the whole earth marveled as they followed the beast. Okay. And they worshipped the dragon. Oh, okay. Well, now whoever they is, I guess they is the beast, or they is, the deceived people. So so it says that one of these camps, or maybe both, worshipped the dragon, right? That's how great the dragon is. Yeah, the beast got all this stuff, but he got all this stuff from the dragon. Therefore, we're going to worship the dragon. For he had given his authority to the beast. Okay, once again, that's the second time they said that. So once again, this dragon that's being worshipped had given his authority to the beast, and they worshipped the beast. Oh, so I guess that's the context of the they. So maybe, it is deceived people, So now, it's either the beast worshipped the dragon and the people worship the beast, or it's everyone's worshiping the dragon, and then after that, people worship the beast too. It's got to be one or the other. Now it says, and they worship the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast, and who can fight against it?" Hmm. It. It. Let's go back earlier. It says, but its mortal wound was healed. Why do I focus on it so much? Because really, it's about time that they start kind of personifying these animals, just like everyone else does, right? We look at woman. Woman is associated with city. Woman is associated with earth, for all that matter. That's a whole nother story. In my personal opinion, I think, a woman is a religion. But anyway, so far, this beast is not being described yet as a personification, i.e., a man. It's not being described as that. It's being described as it. This is a reason why people believe that the beast is a system, or traditionally a type of government, a type of power, right? And you'll hear G-Con talk about the beast system all the time. This is the reason why he says that, right? Now, I'm glad that Markesia Yehuda has said what she said, because this is the very reason why I'm making this video. Markesia Yehuda says, quote, "The red dragon represents the Edomites and the Roman Caucasian Empire." This is what she says, right? And these are the same kind of people that camp on Revelation 13:10. Let's once again see if she's right. But so far, this dragon is more powerful than the beast. I don't know any Edomites that are that powerful. I mean, usually, okay, people are associated with the beast, but when it comes to the dragon, one person occupies that area. Satan. Like, I don't know anybody who is, that bad. I don't know about that. So, we have the dragon giving authority to the beast. I don't know any human beings that are that big and bad. Usually, human beings get their power from other entities, right? Anyway, so let's see. Let's continue to go here. It says, and the beast was given a mouth. Hey, there's that word again, right? Mouth, remember? We were talking about that? Okay, there it is, right? It says, and the beast was given a mouth. Now let's see what he does with it. Uttering haughty and blasphemous words. And it was allowed to exercise authority, right? Authority that's been, given to it by the dragon, right? Remember? And it was allowed to exercise authority for 42 months. And it opened its mouth to utter blasphemies against God. Blaspheming his name, right? His reputation, who he is. And his dwelling. Oh, dang. Blaspheming the place that God dwells, right? Now, of course, we know in the New Testament that, the New Testament saints, because of Jesus, they associate the place that God dwells within the temple of our bodies, right? That's consistent all throughout, the writings of the apostles, and of course, Jesus, who started that, destroy this temple and I'll raise it up again in 3 days. And they didn't know he was talking about his body. That's what the scripture says. And the Jews were like, what are you talking about? That's impossible, Okay, it says, and his dwelling, that is those who dwell in heaven. Wow. So I guess he's blaspheming, heaven itself, or he's blaspheming those who dwell in heaven. I mean, it could be a mixture of both. I don't know. And now I want you to keep in mind, who the beast is, he's this has a lot to do with those who dwell in heaven, right? So it seems like the beast doesn't like those who dwell in heaven, and he doesn't like God, and he doesn't like heaven. This is a context of the people. So let's go ahead and continue. Also, it was allowed to make war on the saints. Maybe I should read that again. So here we are at verse 7, and now all of a sudden in verse 7, things are starting to get a little more clear, aren't they? I'm going to read that again. And it was allowed to make war on the saints and to conquer them. Isn't that interesting? Now, this is a book of Revelation, written by John. Didn't Jesus tell John to write these certain things that he wanted to tell to the 7 churches? Every time you see the word Jew in the book of Revelation, it refers to the synagogue of Satan, those who say who Jews and are not. Every time you see the word saint, every time you see the word church, it refers to the Christians, be they Jew or Gentile. That's the context. John wrote to 7 churches. So let's go ahead and continue, right? All right, Doris. Doris and Shekinah. Shekinah glory. The beast is to make war against the saints and persecution of the Christians. And Doris says, Revelation 12:3-4, the dragon of verse 3 is identified as Satan in verse 9 when it comes to Revelation 12. This identification provides the lead in to the introduction of the end times in end time beast in Revelation 13:1. All right, amen. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and continue. It says, and it was allowed to make war on the saints and to conquer them. And authority was given to it. Once again, it. So I guess this is some kind of government, some type of system entity, right? And authority was given it over every tribe and every people and language and nation. Governments can do that if they push, if that system is pushed hard enough. I know that. Kind of like a one world government. But anyway, and all who dwell on the earth will worship it. Wow. Worship it. Everyone whose names has not been written before the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who was slain. So those are the people who are going to go ahead and, worship this beast, right? People who haven't had their names written. And it also says in verse 9, if anyone has an ear to hear, let him hear. If anyone is to be taken captive, to captivity he goes. If anyone is to be slain with the sword he must be slain. Here is a call for the endurance or the patience and faith of the saints. There's the saints again. They're basically being patient because, they, anyone that's been taken captive, persecuted, and things like that, well, you know what? They're definitely going to get what's coming to them. This is a patience of, the saints and the persecution of the early church. We all know how bad it was during those early church times. I mean, you did not want to be a Christian. If you were not willing to burn incense to Caesar, they knew who you were. Hey, what's up? What's going on, Omar? So this is a context of the type of people that John is talking about. Now let's continue to read to get even more context about this. So we could see that this has nothing to do with, in the last days and the Edomites are gonna go ahead and you see that's not even there. The beast made war on the saints to conquer them, right? This is a story between God's faithful and the beast system that Satan sends against them. In the first century, paints this out clearly. It's vivid. Let's see how much more clear this can get. Let's read all the rest of the stuff that, a lot of Black Hebrew Israelites don't like to show you. All right, it says, the second beast. Then I saw another beast rising out of the earth. Because, the first one rose out of the sea. And to me, that kind of reminds me of like a spiritual kind of thing. You're in the sea, things are floating. It's a little unknown down there. People really haven't explored it yet because, hey, they didn't have technology. So it's kind of like a mysterious spiritual place. Plus, it had a lot of things to do with worship, right? So, but then again, I could be wrong. It says, then I saw another beast rising out of the earth. This is beast number 2. It had 2 horns. Second. It had... Okay. It had 2 horns like a lamb, and it spoke like a dragon. So this beast is a little similar to his master. Wow. Interesting. He had 2 horns like a lamb. Now, usually lambs are associated with us, or they're associated with Jesus. But he spoke like a dragon. Last time I looked in the Bible, they kept on, you go with Jesus, you go with Paul, and they keep speaking about how wolves can be in sheep's clothing. I may be going too far with that. So, anyway, let me go ahead and continue. It says, it exercises all authority of the first beast, wow, in its presence, and makes the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast. So the second beast makes everyone worship the first beast. Well, yeah, if you got a horn like a lamb, but yet you speak like a dragon, you kind of could deceive people into doing something like that. If you have some marks that are very similar to, your opposition, you could kind of trick them into doing that. I could kind of see that. It says, and makes the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast whose mortal wound was healed. Wow. So yeah, that's the one. Once again, it performs signs, great signs, even making fire come down from heaven to earth in front of people, and by its signs that it is allowed to work in the presence of the beast, and it deceives. It deceives. So this beast is trying to come after the saints and kind of, if it can't stop them out and kill them, then how about we just kind of pretend to be something that they think that's with them? Makes sense. And it deceives those who dwell on earth, telling them to make an image for the beast that was wounded by the sword and yet lived. Interesting. What also I wanted to point out here, you have it making like fire come down from heaven. Last time I checked, that's what happened with Elijah. Elijah, he was with 400 prophets of Baal. We all know the story. And they cried and did all this stuff. And all of a sudden, Elijah stepped up. He prayed that God would send fire from heaven. And next thing you know, that's what happened. And so we know that after that, it really didn't go well for Elijah, because that kind of got the king's wife's attention, which was a Baal worshiping woman named Jezebel, right? So he's doing all these signs that, well, the Jews would be familiar with, and Christians would be familiar with. You know, I mean, what better way to deceive someone, as it said later on? We saw that, right? What better way to deceive somebody than to do something that, your opposition is doing, right? That's a good way to deceive people. And not only that, but hey, it says that, okay, so you have two horns like a lamb, right? Miracles, fire from heaven. But it spoke like a dragon, right? Make an image of the beast. Worship it. You see that? Right? Let's go back to verse 11. Look, then I saw a beast rise out of the earth. It had two horns like a lamb. That's similar to God. Jesus, same difference, right? Miracles, great signs. And it spoke like a dragon, right? Cause those people that were deceived to make an image of him that speaks, and might cause those, will worship the image of the beast to be slain. That's definitely a good way to kind of trap people, right? You get them to think that you're someone you're not. You get them to do some things that they think they're doing to their Lord and Maker. And at the last minute, what do? You kill them. That's definitely a good way to kind of take some people out if you want to do that. I mean, look at verse 15. Let's read it again. And it was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast. Breath to the image. Now, once again, let's just put ourselves in a first century or pre-first century Jewish mindset. Every time you think of breath, you think of the breath of life, right? The ruah, right? The breath that gave life to Adam. I mean, these are, no one's going to deny these things. But it's giving this breath and life to an image. Earlier, around 500 years before the first century, they'd have been talking about an idol, trying to build a, clay sculpture or stone sculpture, wooden sculpture figure and put, gold all over it. Sounds like they're trying to fashion an idol or an image and make it alive. A living idol. That's about as biblically clear as I can make that. If you got something that's more clear than how the Jews end up talking about this stuff, then hey, let me know. But I think that's pretty clear. So let's read 15 again. And it was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, right? This system. So that the image of the beast might even speak and might cause those who would not worship the image of the beast to be slain. Oh, so it makes more sense now. So the people who said, no, we ain't doing it, which would be us Christians, they basically say, oh, okay, so you don't want to go along with the program? Fine, then we're going to try to slay you again. These are the same saints that are having patience and endurance against this beast system. It's been going on since the first century. The people who listened to John say this stuff, and they wrote, the people who read this stuff to the Christians of the 7 churches he wrote to, they knew exactly what John was talking about. They knew who they were, and they knew who the beasts were. They knew. There's no Edomite modern context going on here. People read Revelation as if it was written in the 21st century. It wasn't. Let's go ahead and continue here. I hope this is making some sense. It says this. And also, it says also it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or on the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark, that is the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Ah, okay, this calls for wisdom. Let the one who has an understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. So the number of the beast is a man. I'm not sure if the beast yet is a man. So far, I haven't seen that anywhere in the scripture. If someone wants to kind of help me out here, then please all do. I'm just trying to be as clear as possible. For it is the number of the man, and his number is 666, right? Okay. One thing that I thought that was pretty interesting is that I want to go ahead to, I think it's Ezekiel chapter 9, to kind of talk about this image and beast and hand and things like that. Just a second. Let me see. Okay. And we're going to go to, there it is. All right. Okay. Just give me a second here. When it talks about, this number or whatever it is that's on someone's head and on their hand, if you were a Jew, the first thing that you would think about was the thing that you were probably taught when you were a baby, when you were a child. And it's basically in Deuteronomy. And it says this, right? It says this. Oh, wow. Ironically, it talks about children. Ain't that something? Ain't that crazy? This is Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 6. It says this. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. Okay. All right. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. It's talking about, hey, the commandments and laws and things like that. So this is going to be, it's going to be a sign on your hand, and it shall be as frontlets between your eyes. In other words, this is really talking about, the most visible sign is your actions, right? Your actions. What does Corinthians say? It says that, the Jews, they seek signs. Didn't it say that? And the Greeks, they seek wisdom. One way that you show signs is by your works. What can you miraculously do to show who you are? It will be a sign on your hand. It'll be your actions, the way that you live, what you're confessing that you be, the fruit of a man. And yet it'll also be in the frontlets between your eyes. Why? Because this is what's really guiding you of where you're trying to go. It's going to be in your mind, right? The way that you think and the way that you act will give your allegiance away. If you're marked by God, they'll know. If you are someone who has your mind on the Lord, yeah, they'll eventually know by this, by your actions. And it'll be because of that, well, if you're not, going along with the system, just like the people in Revelation 13 that we read about, they didn't go along with the system. And, we know what happened to them. The people that did go along with the system, well, it didn't say that they received the mark. It just said, hey, they were worshiping. It was something that they were doing. And yet they were able to be, they were shown like, oh, yeah, okay, that person is marked. That person has allegiance to the state. They're with us. Didn't say those people were marked. It said that later on in the chapter. It was what they did that caused them to be associated or marked. That's why it's at the later end of the chapter. Now let's go with that context, that idea. Let's go to Ezekiel 9. I want to show you guys something. Now, ironically, remember we were talking about the image and the beast and the breathing in. Okay, remember that? Okay, well, in Ezekiel 9, it says, idolaters killed. Ain't that something? Now, we just got done talking about the image and, see? I'm not going to go through this whole thing, okay? Well, maybe I will. But let's see if we could, look at this and jump back to the book of Revelation and see if some things make sense. Because God does like to do patterns. Like, God does like to do that. You know what I mean? You can sometimes tell what God's going to do about what he's already been doing before. You know what I mean? Let me continue. Then I cried in my ears with a loud voice and sang, bring near the executioners of the city, each with his destroying weapon in his hand. And behold, 6 men came from the direction of the upper gate. Remember who these 6 men are. Which faces north, each with his weapon for slaughter in his hand. And with them was a man clothed in linen, with a writing case at his waist. And they went in and stood beside the bronze altar. Now the glory of the God of Israel had gone up from the cherub on which it rested to the threshold of the house. And he called to the man clothed in linen, who had been writing the case at his waist. And the Lord said to him, pass through the city. Please pay attention to this part. Hello, don't go to sleep. This is important. Pass through the city, through Jerusalem, and put a mark on the foreheads of the men who sigh and groan over all the abominations that are committed in it. Yeah, so in other words, put a mark on the people who are sad that Israel has went into idolatry. And to the others, he said, in my hearing, pass through the city after him and strike. Your eyes shall not spare, and you shall show no pity. Kill old men outright, young men and maidens, kill children and women, but touch no one on whom is the mark. And, begin at my sanctuary, but begin there. And guess what they did? So they began, this is a short chapter, good. So they began with the elders who were before the house, and they said to them, defile the house, fill the courts with the slain, go out. So they went out and struck in the city. And while they were striking, I was left alone. I fell upon my face and cried, oh Lord God, will you destroy all the remnant of Israel in the outpouring of your wrath on Jerusalem? Then he said to me, the gift of the house of Israel and Judah is exceedingly great. The land is full of blood, and the city is full of injustice. For they say, quote, the Lord has forsaken the land, and the Lord does not see. As for me, my eye will not spare, nor will I have pity. I will bring their deeds upon their heads. And behold, a man clothed in linen, with the writing case at his waist, there he is again, brought back the word, saying, I have done as you commanded me. Now, what are we looking at here? We're looking at people who basically were falling into idolatry, and the only people that were saved were the people who had, this mark, on their head and on their hand. I think where it said that they're the only people that were spared. Now, why do I say that? Because I know what you're thinking. You're like, Matt, well, You just got done reading Revelation 13 about people having a devil's mark. And, it was the saints that were killed, and the people who had the devil's mark, they were the ones that spared. And you're like, Matt, sounds like you're reading a story about the opposite of what happened. Why would you do that? Well, let's go back to the book of Revelation and let's see why I would end up doing that. Because remember, I end up telling you guys that the devil likes to, do things very similar to what God does, right? So let's go back. Go back to Revelation. And since we read chapter 13, let's read chapter 14. Let's see. Just give me a second. I'm sorry. Just give me a second. Do. Okay, I'm sorry. That's right. There was one way that I ended up wanting to remember this. There was one way I wanted to remember this verse. Um, Remember, I went to Ezekiel 9, right? Well, we were supposed to go to Revelation 9. Isn't that interesting? So we just got done reading Ezekiel 9. I like to read Revelation 9. And once again, see if you find something interesting. All right. This is what it says. Now, I'm not going to read this whole thing, because I'm just trying to make a point. But it says this. And the fifth angel blew his trumpet, and I saw a star fall from heaven to earth. Once again, stars, we know that's associated with angels, things like that, right? And he was given the key to the shaft of the bottomless pit. He opened the shaft of the bottomless pit, and from the shaft there arose smoke like the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened with the smoke from the shaft. Then from the smoke came locusts on the earth, and they were given power like the power of scorpions on the earth. They were told not to harm the grass of the earth or any green plant or any tree, but only those who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads. They were allowed to torment them for 5 months, but not to kill them. And their torment was like the torment of a scorpion when it stings someone. And in those days, people will seek death and not find it. They will long to die, but death will flee from them. It's pretty interesting because the people who were protected here, the only people that were protected were the people who had this seal of God on their foreheads, right? And not only that, but there was one more thing I wanted to show about these people. Because once again, this is a way that they were protected by God. Just give me a second. There was one more thing. I'm pretty much kind of doing this on the fly, and I am pretty much wrapping up. Um, yeah, there was one more thing I did want to show about the seal, but instead, I'll just go back to Revelation 14, and this will be my final point, and then from there, I'll pretty much shut up. All right. Revelation 14, people always, they pretty much associate it with the 144,000. And, it speaks about them. It's all, singing them a new psalm before the throne, right? But there's one thing that I've always kind of noticed about this verse, just being as traditional as I can. It said, it is these who have not defiled themselves with women, for they are virgins. That could mean either two things. Either one, it means actual women, or two, it could mean the harlot and those of her children, or the Jezebels and those of her children. Just like in Revelation chapter 2 or 3, where, someone had a spirit of Jezebel. And if you went along with her, then, Jesus said, hey, I will throw you in the bed with her children. So, it says, it is these who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. Usually, lambs are people, and then God is like the lion. But in this sense, we're the people, and Jesus is the lamb. That just kind of stood out to me. It says, these have been redeemed from mankind as first fruits for God and the Lamb. And in their mouth no lie was found, for they are blameless. If I were a betting man,